who are listening on the World Wide Web. I also say good morning to each of you. And for those of you who are local and you want to catch us on the internet, then you can go to my website, which is askdrferguson.com. Click on, you'll go to the middle of the page, click on Live Radio. Then when you get to the YouTube site, it's a little house in the top left-hand corner. You click on the house, and then you click on Feed. And you can catch the program live. And if you try to catch live, then you don't want to try to listen on the radio because there'll be a disconnect.
Yeah.
But for those of you who want to do that, those of you who are locally, you definitely can do that, or internationally. We are live on both the YouTube as well as live on the local station out of Wahosky 970, and then I'm coming to you from the Down East Nursing Home in Gates County. So we break for a few minutes from seeing patients and come on the air to try to give some preventive health care tips and some things you can live by and work with and kind of make your life better. You know, I'm always a believer that preventive health is much better than waiting until you get sick and then trying to do something about it.
Exactly.
So just piggybacking on what Bishop was just talking about with the water, you know, water is very, very critical and just critical. Many of you who listen to my program regularly will hear me talk about water and how important it is. Men, 65% water, women, 55% water. Your brain, 80% water. Your muscles, 75–80% water. Your bones are 25% water. So you can see that much of your body is made up of water. And if you don't have water, you're going to be out of balance. And I didn't say tea and Kool-Aid and soda. Just because it has some water in the midst of it, that doesn't make it the same. Because your kidneys and your body have to filter that, and they have to utilize it. So when your body has to filter out some of those impurities, like when I was in medical school at undergrad, we had a machine called a spectrophotometer, and you inject a compound into that. And when we inject coffee into that machine, it had 400 compounds in it.
Whoa.
400. And so your body has to filter all those different compounds out before it can utilize the good ones. And that's a lot of work for your body. So water is the way to go. Water. And people often say, what's the best water? It's hard to really say. Most big cities have a good water system. Many times they're going to have chlorine in them, which is not so great for you. And oftentimes they'll have fluoride in them, which is also not so great for you if you're over 12 years old. So having a filter on your shower, on your water faucet in the kitchen, on the places where you're utilizing water is a good thing to do. And a reverse osmolality filter are the best ones to get. So that's just a brief about water. And you know, for the last several weeks we've been talking about minerals and vitamins. So what does minerals and vitamins play in the water? Minerals play a very important part for water. Water is needed. Minerals are needed for a hormone balance throughout your body, and they play a critical role in maintaining the delicate balance between the amount of water your body needs and the amount of water your body utilizes. So very critical minerals play that part. Minerals keep the blood and the tissue fluid from becoming too acidity or too alkaline, and they're involved in the whole process of cell nourishment. So it's very important that even if you don't understand the details of those things I just said, water is critically important. A lot of times people drink enough water in the summertime, but the rest of the year they just kick it to the curb. And that's not good. I had a patient just this week who had heat exhaustion. And heat exhaustion is many times going to come from when you're out in the sun, you're out there working, you're sweating, but you're not drinking any water. And so if you're out there and you normally sweat and you're not sweating, that's a problem. And heat exhaustion, just as a heat stroke, they come on you very quickly. You can be doing fine one moment, next moment you're feeling bad, feeling nausea, you're crampy, you're feeling dizzy, you're lethargic, you don't know what's going on, then you pass out.
So you're saying that before heat comes on, there's no significant warning that it's...
There is not any significant warning unless you're really paying close attention.
Okay.
And one of those warnings would be you're not sweating. Where you normally sweat, one of those warnings would be you're not sweating. But the average person would not be tentative enough to their system or to their body to identify that.
Okay.
So for the most part, you're not going to know when you're going into heat exhaustion or heat stroke. So this is why you just got to keep up with your water. Now, Gatorade, Loaz, Powerade, the sports nutrition drinks, they're okay, but you want to drink them when you're sweating a lot, not just as a drink to drink.
Now, would any of those things or symptoms be a precursor to dehydration? Dehydration.
Well, they're hand in hand.
Okay.
They're hand in hand. Dehydration is meaning your body not having enough fluid on board. And if your body doesn't have enough fluid on board, well, then it begins to do those kind of things I just described. If you're out in the heat and you become dehydrated, then we'll call it heat exhaustion or maybe heat stroke. If you're in the house and you're just not eating and drinking enough, then we'll call it dehydration, maybe malnutrition.
Okay.
If you're choosing to do that, say an Alzheimer's patient, for example. As the Alzheimer's disease progresses, they're going to eat less and want less, and so they're not by really choice choosing it, but they are choosing it, not to eat. And that's what we call inanition. And so inanition means you're playing a part that the food's available to you, the water's available to you, you're just not taking it in.
Okay.
And so that's more of a term that we give the patient or the person some more ownership on why they're dehydrated or why they're malnourished.
So that's a good thing for any caregivers who have patients that cannot or maybe just will not let them know when they need something to drink. They should make sure they stay well hydrated.
Yeah, and that's a key with any caregiver, but with any seniors in general, don't drink enough water, and especially your Alzheimer's senior, you got to put it in front of them and try to get them to do it.
Okay.
A lot of times seniors don't want water. I mean, it's a battle I constantly have with my mother. Every time I talk to her, I say, how much water are you drinking? Sometimes it'll be 1 cup a day. Sometimes it'll be none. So water is one of those things that if you didn't grow up doing a lot of it, and you don't really understand why it's so important, it's hard to get people to do it. So many people say, I don't like water. It doesn't taste good. Okay, well, so what? You don't like paying your light bill, but you pay it, right?
You know what? I was just thinking for those. I know I go to the wellness center to exercise maybe 3, 4, 5 times a week. Sometimes I know I don't feel like I'm thirsty, but I do drink, and I'm amazed at how much water my body craves.
Right. Well, you've got to drink. It's not about whether you feel like you need it or not. You need it. And when you become dehydrated, for whatever the reason, your body won't function nearly as well as it should. And when you become dehydrated, that often ends up pushing up in the hospital because then they become confused. They may develop some stomach pain. They may be lethargic. They may have all kinds of symptoms. When my grandmother was living, she died at 100 and a half. There was a couple of times where she developed some significant diarrhea. And anytime you develop diarrhea, what are you losing? Well, you're losing water, you're losing electrolytes.
Okay.
And so very quickly, a senior that's already not drinking enough water, maybe already frail, and now they have a few bouts of diarrhea, well, they're going to be in trouble quick. So I kept my grandmother out of the hospital several times, giving her Loaz. Loaz is one of the sports nutrition drinks you can find on my website at AskDrFerguson.com. We also have it in the office, but Loaz was developed at the MDM Cancer Institute in Maryland, and it was developed for patients that were having nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. And they wanted to be able to get something into their system before they either had nausea, vomiting, or before they had diarrhea. So Loaz has such an osmolality that it gets into the system in 90 seconds. So hopefully before you throw up again or before you have another bout of diarrhea, Loaz is already in your system. For things like Gatorade and Powerade, they take 25 to 40 minutes. And the reason is the osmolality. Gatorade and Powerade, they have an osmolality of around 280. I don't know that it may not mean much to our listening audience, but that's kind of a steady state for the fluid balance in your body. Well, Loaz has an osmolality of about 170. And your body always wants to be equal on both sides of the equation. And so when you're taking the Loaz, it quickly goes in the system because your body's trying to get equal on both sides of the equation.
Right.
Whereas, the Loaz, whereas the Gatorade and Powerade, they go in slower because they're already right at about the same osmolality that you have in your bloodstream. And so they have to exchange places. They do that more. They do that a little slower. So if you just picture, say, a piece of cheesecloth. A lot of people know what a cheesecloth is. If you take a piece of cheesecloth, and on one side you put say, a thick orange juice, and on the other side you put a water that has a food coloring in it. Well, eventually, it's going to look about the same on both sides, except some of the pulp will get kept behind on that one side because of the high pulp. But eventually, both sides will look about the same, and that's how osmolality works. It's always trying to get equal on both sides of the equation. And that's why low os works so fast. And so for those of you who have loved ones at home and intermittently may have your children, older adults, whatever, intermittently have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, low os is a great thing to have on your shelf, to keep on your shelf and utilize when you need it. It'll last a long time on the shelf, it'll last a long time in the refrigerator. So that's something I frequently recommend to my patients, and I always had some on the shelf at my house and my boys' house. They have it readily available for those bouts of nausea. It's like Pedialyte would be a similar thing, but a low os is going to be Pedialyte out as well because it's going to get into the system faster.
Pedialyte, let's think about children?
Yeah, children. Children, when they're having nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, many times the doctor's going to recommend Pedialyte. Pedialyte's kind of along the same, similar, not the same, but a similar formulation to things like Gatorade and Powerade, but it's more designed for children. And so, but low os is going to, would beat out Pedialyte just like it will beat out the Gatorade and the Powerade as far as getting into the system very quickly.
Okay.
And the faster it gets into your system, the better you feel. Like, for example, you're playing a sport and you're starting to cramp up. Well, that says you're behind in your fluid for the most part. 95% of somebody cramping on the field, there's going to be because they're behind in your fluid. And low os is something that will get into your system in 90 seconds. So you go to the sideline, you get some low os, you drink it, and you're feeling better, in a minute, 2 minutes. Where Gatorade and Powerade, you may feel a little better, but for the most part, you're not going to feel the best until about 25 to 40 minutes. So sometimes by the time you're back in the locker room, now you're getting the biggest brunt, the biggest kick from your Gatorade and Powerade. So that's why low os is such a good thing to take in. And I've been utilizing it for a long time out of the office, probably 12, 14. Well, actually, this is 2014. I've been utilizing it since 1998. So it's been 16 years I've been utilizing that in the office. So I've had a lot of success with it and a lot of good results. So that was a lot of things that I hadn't planned to talk about today, but I think they were good things to talk about.
Yeah, I think so.
We've been talking about vitamins and minerals, and we've been trying to do something with that topic, and we've been on it several weeks now, and trying to give our listening audience an understanding of what do you mean when you talk about vitamins and minerals. And they do play a significant role in our body. And last week and the week before that, we started talking specifically about what some of the vitamins and minerals do in your body. I thought we would continue with that today. As just a real brief review again, vitamins are organic compounds that your body, they're essential compounds that your body does not make, and so you need to take them in from the outside. The common ones, the water solubles, are your B and C, and then your fat solubles are your A, D, E, and K. It's hard to overdose on your B's and your C's, but you can overdose on your fat solubles because they get dissolved into your fat and they can accumulate in your fat. Your water soluble ones, they're going to leave your body very quickly. And if you take too much, it usually might just turn your urine or your stool a different color, but usually you won't become toxic on the C's and on the B's, but it's possible. It's always possible to become toxic on anything that you take in excess. And then the minerals, they're non-organic, meaning they never change form. They're like a rock. They stay that same compound their entire existence. And so we take in minerals into our body. They get utilized. So a lot of different chemical reactions throughout the body, and then they leave our body the same way they come in. where we do utilize the vitamins, and they're referred to as essential, because you have to take them in from outside your body. So that's kind of a brief review again on vitamins and minerals. And the vitamins and minerals, people hear a lot about them, but often don't know a lot about why take them. And even if your diet is the greatest, you still can benefit from vitamins and minerals. Why? Where do you get your vitamins and minerals? For the most part, your fruits and your vegetables. You'll get them from some of your meats, because what happens, your animal eats the grass and eats the fruits and things like that. And so they're going to get some of those vitamins and minerals into their system because of what they ate. And then you may be able to utilize some of that you get from them. But for the most part, vegetables and fruit is going to be your best source of vitamins and minerals. Where do they get it from? Well, they get it from the soil. Well, when you plant those different vegetables and fruits in the soil, and the soil is depleted of some vitamins and some minerals, well, now obviously you're not going to be able to get it. And over years, when you grow on different crops, and even if you have rotation crop growing, and if you're growing a different crop in that area on different years, so that certain nutrients can be replenished in the soil, and certain other nutrients will be taken up. Even in that scenario, you're still oftentimes over years you're going to come up with some deficiencies in some of the vitamins and the minerals. So that leads me to why you should take a supplement. That's why you should take a supplement. Because even if you eat great, even if you're getting all organic foods and you're getting your proper rest and proper sleep and you're exercising and you look like $1 million, you still probably have some deficiencies because it's hard to get everything you need from the foods you eat. Why? Because of the statement I just made. Over time, the soil becomes deficient in things, and even if you fortify it, and you put nutrients back into it, or what we refer to fertilize the ground, that would be a substitute, but you never could make it as good as God made it in the first place. Okay. There was recently a study came out actually. I was talking about some of the challenges with the fortification and some of the things that the children are taking in. A lot of times with different food groups, different food substances, they do what we call bleach it. The bleaching takes out some of the nutrients, and then they fortify it, putting some of the nutrients back in. And some of this more recent study referred to that they've been over-fortifying some of your foods, and some of the foods that the children are eating are having too much nutrients, too much of one thing over another. And that happens when they go to fortify it. So does that make sense, that fortifying issue?
Yes. To me it does, because we've talked about it so much in the past.
Right, yeah, and fortification, just like they're going to fortify your house. You put your storm windows up, you're going to put gutters up, you're going to make sure there's no trees around your house. Fortify. You're going to make it like a fort so that nobody can break in. You're going to have your fort tight and all the doors shut. So fortifying, that's kind of the way you can look at it, kind of getting something better, getting something prepared. But in this case, we're talking about food, and they try to add back nutrients that have been taken out. So let's talk about a few specifics. I know we're running out of time again, as usual. But you can always find out some more of this information by going by my website, askdrferguson.com. There's lots of nutritional supplements there on my website. I also have some links and places you can go to. You can call my office at 252-332-6484, and we're always happy to see new patients. And I have lots of other presence on the internet. I have lots of YouTubes on the internet, youtube.com/user/Dr. Ferguson. But if you forgot all those things I just said, go to your Google search window, type in Stephen Ferguson, type in Stephen Ferguson MD, type in Ask Dr. Ferguson. Any of those things you type in, you'll come to a lot of the things I have on the internet. And then those of you know I'm into photography and really enjoy that, I also have a photography site, which is called photomedoc.com. So those are ways you can contact with me. And each of those sites should have a way you can email me and correspond with me and talk to me about some things. A lot of times people have issues they want me to talk about. Call the office, call the radio station, let them know that you'd like me to talk about a certain issue, and we'll be happy to do that on one of the upcoming programs. Last week, I don't remember how far we got. We were talking about some utilizations of some vitamins and minerals. Do you remember, did we get up to vitamin C? Did we get that far?
Vitamin C, I am not sure.
I don't know. We'll start with vitamin C. Again, your B complex, well, your B's and your C's, they're very helpful if you're having stress, depression in your life, things like that. So your vitamin B's and your C's, not C's, but the one C, and you have 12 B's. So the combination of those can be very helpful for a person that's leading a very stressful life, depressed, things like that, coming off drugs, coming off of alcohol, anything where your body might be stressed or deficient in those things. Those are good things to take in to help the body. So vitamin C is a very strong antioxidant. I think we talked about this, but we'll start there. A very strong antioxidant. Vitamin C you can find it in a lot of different places. You can find it in green leafy vegetables. You can find it in banana. You can find it in orange juice. You can find it. There's just a lot of different places you can find some vitamin C. And so, what does vitamin C do? One thing it does is it helps with amino acid metabolism. That's how protein starts out as one big thing, and then it gets broken down to amino acids, at which time your body utilizes that for different things. So vitamin C can help in that. It helps work as an antioxidant. A lot of people hear about free radicals. A free radical is when one of your cells in your body begins to divide abnormally. And so what that means is usually the electrical balance on that cell is now abnormal. But what the free radical does, it has to meet up with an antioxidant. When the antioxidant comes into your body, such as a vitamin C and lots and lots of others, it will bring that electrical balance back to that cell, get that cell functioning normal again, so that hopefully it doesn't go on to develop a cancer or some type of infection that your body wasn't able to fight off. So that's one of the places vitamin C can be very, very helpful. It also helps in collagen formation. Collagen is a matrix by which gives you your structure. If you have a cut on your hand, there's going to be a collagen matrix that brings your skin back together, and it ends up being a scar. There's collagen in that scar. Vitamin D, a lot of people hear vitamin D, they hear about helping your bones be stronger. It helps with bone mineralization. I think last week we talked a little about this. Your bones are constantly building and breaking down throughout your entire life. So if you take and look at one of your fingers, that bone in your finger is going to totally be replaced in the next 8 to 10 years. But because it takes place so slow, you don't realize that the bones are constantly being replaced. So what happens is you have osteoblasts that put down new bone and osteoclasts that eat up the old bone. And in the perfect world, those are working in harmony. So you build nice strong bones. But if the osteoclasts are working too fast and they're eating up more bone than you're making, well, then you get osteopenia or osteoporosis. People hear about, they fall and break their bones. So those kind of things, the building and the breaking down want to be in harmony. Just like we've talked about in past sessions on your hormones. Your hormones want to be in harmony. So your hormones, they start at cholesterol, then you go to prednisolone, then you go to progesterone. From progesterone, you go to estrogen, testosterone, DHA, and cortisol. Well, if you're stressed and depressed, then cortisol is going to take more than its share. And so the building block, again, is progesterone. So progesterone is going to be utilized to make more cortisol. And while at the same time, your estrogen, your progesterone, your DHEA are becoming deficient. And so your body wants to be in a perfect balance. That's everything in your body works like a fine oiled engine. Perfect balance. You turn on that key and it just purls, and it just, you press the gas, just smooth. That's how your body wants to be. It wants to be smooth, just like that perfect engine.
I think I did this last week, and I said that the human body is an amazing machine.
Absolutely, it's an amazing machine. And just as another side note, this is why it's so important for those of you grandparents out there, those of you parents out there that have little ones. Studies have shown that from 0 to 18 months, there's literally no difference in the way the kid learns, whether they're coming from the richest family in the world or whether they're coming from the poorest family in the world. If they have the stimulation, there's basically no difference in how they're learning. From 18 months to 3 years, there starts to be some separation, again, based on how much stimulation, how many things they're exposed to. But again, from 0 to 3 years, almost no difference, regardless of their social economic background they're coming from. But after 3 years, there begins to be a significant separation and deviation, and that's usually based on what the child is being exposed to.
Ooh.
So, you know, for those young parents out there who have young children, you've got to expose your kid to everything. Don't think you're overwhelming them. You're not. You could not possibly overwhelm your kid. Your kid can learn 10 different languages at once and learn and be able to distinguish the difference. Just because you can't do it, don't think that your baby, who you think doesn't know and can't do anything, can't do it. Another little side note, a great tool for some of you young moms, baby signing time. It's a wonderful tool. Babies learning sign language, and it's very effective. Babies can learn to move their hands and point long before they know any words.
That's true.
And so baby signing time is a great tool to utilize. It will teach your kids some sign language, milk, juice, water, sleepy, bed, more, I want to get up, I want to lay down. Tons and tons of words your kid can learn, somewhere between 1 and 2 years old. They'll have a tremendous vocabulary. And then if you just keep working with them, then they'll have a second language.
Wow.
And it's a great tool to utilize for some of you young parents or grandparents. Buy baby signing time for your children. It's a really, really good tool to utilize. So again, I know we're coming close to the end of time, and I always want to let people know they can reach me at my website at AskDrFerguson.com. They can call my office at 252-332-6484. They can go to my YouTube, youtube.com/users/AskDrFerguson. They can go to my photo site, photomedoc.com. There's other places I have a place on site. I do a substance abuse clinic, so you could type in substance abuse doctor or Suboxone doctor. You can find me that way. Tons and tons of ways you can find me on the internet, and we're always happy to see new patients, work with new patients. If you've got everything I just said, go to the Google search window, type in Stephen Ferguson, Ask Dr. Ferguson, and you'll find some of these things. You'll find them more directly if you utilize those links I just gave you, but you'll find me anyway if you don't. So how much time we got left, Bishop?
Okay, 2 minutes.
So 2 minutes. So again, just to re-summarize and reiterate some of the things we talked about today. Water, critical, 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 critical. Nothing in your diet is more important than water. Men 65% water, women 55% water. Vitamins and minerals. Important to get a good vitamin and mineral supplement to bring to your diet. I don't know which one to get. Well, start off with a multivitamin. You go by my website. We have a good one there. A lot of your multi-level marketing companies will have a good vitamin. Your natural stores will have a good vitamin. The ones you might get off your corner store, your favorite store, your drugstore, something like that, they may not be as good. Vitamins are going to be based on how they're bound, and the more expensive binding is going to lead to a more expensive vitamin, and those are going to dissolve much better in your system. And then you have natural things and you have synthetic things. So you can have natural vitamin D or you can have synthetic vitamin D. The natural vitamin D product might cost $18. The synthetic vitamin D might cost $5. So just gaining some understanding as you move down this track of vitamins and minerals. But a starting point is to start with a good multivitamin, as opposed to trying to get all these things individually, which is really hard to do. So on that note, to you and our listening audience, all of you on the World Wide Web, I want you to be blessed. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget to tell your friends to tune in next week, 9:30 to 10 on Wednesdays. We do this program on World Wide Web. Tell your friends to join us on the web. Those locally, tell your friends to join us there as well.
And they can think about if they have questions, they can go in the questions.
And on the last note, don't forget to catch Patricia's program, Talk Back Now, with Patricia. That comes with 11 to 12.
Today, Wednesday, 10 o'clock. Yeah, 11 o'clock.
11 to 12 today. Don't forget to catch that. She always talks about something good in the political realm. All right, be blessed and have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.